the areas that created some problems. Probably, again, we've been married 42 years, and probably about halfway through our marriage, there was a phase that I went through for 2 or 3 years where, again, I didn't want really much to do with spiritual things. It just wasn't important to me. We were beginning to hear the word, the uncompromised word from some other sources and some Bible studies we were going to, and Karen was getting all excited and turned on, and I was
bumping along.
I was not. Yeah, I was just bumping along. So anyway, we had gotten into. I love to say. I used to say that all the time. We got into a financial bind. It wasn't we. I got us into a financial bind. Just making some bad investments, and then somebody who I never prayed. And again, we were back when we weren't praying about decisions. I wasn't praying about decisions that were made. It was just whatever looked good, flying by the seat of our pants, and making decisions that were, again, based in the natural and what may or may not look good. And there was opportunity for some write-offs and some tax shelters and things like that. And I got into those and never really came to her and said, this is, let's pray about this. And we had a couple of instances where we had opportunities to invest, and I had enough sense, I think this was after the fact, to come to her and say, we need to pray about this, what do you think? And she got a definite check, and both situations ended up failing, and we would have lost a lot of money. So we recognized how important it was for us, again, to do that. But prior to that, to go before the Lord, but prior to that, we had gotten into this, we had gotten into this, I had gotten us into this financial bind. Bottom line was, after 12 months of just, and it was a typical scenario where I would get a letter from the IRS or whatever, and would let her see it, and then I would get all uptight about it, and she could,
It was very obvious there was a problem.
I was not good at hiding.
Yes, he was not.
My feelings.
He would get in these moods, and I would ask what's wrong, and he wouldn't say, and so it was a vicious circle.
Nothing's wrong.
That's what you said, yes.
Nothing's wrong. It's my typical response. I'm okay, nothing's wrong. Anyway, long story short, we ended up owing the IRS $25,000, and this is going back, probably the equivalent of $50,000 or $75,000 now. And I just was devastated, and they were putting the heat on to get it resolved. And finally, I went to her, and I was an emotional wreck over it, and she loved what I said. I came to her and said, "Honey, we have a problem." And it was like, yeah, right. We do, because we are one flesh, but I was the bozo that got us there. So she had no part in that. Anyway, went to her with that and said, we have a problem, and this is what it is. I expected her to fall down and just, in sackcloth and ashes, and roll around on the floor with me, and just, wail, and this is horrible, and how are we going to take care of this? And she just immediately stopped and said, we need to pray about this.
And we did, and God worked it all out. But in that process, what happened to me was a lack of trust in him, because he had carried this weight for so long and never opened up about it. So it made me feel like he didn't trust me, and in process I learned to feel like I couldn't trust him to be open and honest about things. That probably hurt me more than the financial thing at all. And the marriage class was really helpful, because it talked about when trust has been broken, that's when you put your trust in God. And so I was learning to do that anyway. And I did, and it was just a very short time that I was able to start trusting him again. And he started being more open, and together we worked through that. And it was truly that lesson that was such a help to me, because I probably would have just kind of bumped around for a while trying to figure out how I was going to learn to trust you again. But when I put that trust in God and just believed him to work things out and to work in him, he did, and trust never became an issue again.